One of the things we have at KPMG is called a rapid value assessment. And what that does is it looks at your company via LinkedIn and other social media platforms and assesses, given these are the different people at these different job levels, this is what the general task to break down each job title into specific tasks that generally accompany that specific title. And this is potentially what your productivity gain would be, to your point, Hema, really focusing on what's the productivity gain. Also, quality is also very important. Are you improving the quality? So how do you see this evolving in the next 12 months? I heard you mention vibe coding.
Vibe coding is empowering, but very dangerous. And like all these solutions that are coming up need some guardrail. If you go to our platform, based on the ViNexus agentic services technology, we vibe coded a chatbot. And the chatbot basically just sits on top of our data, and you can ask it about any of the data that's on our platform. And so you can ask it like, how's the market doing today? How's the Mag 7 doing? And explain why Amazon is outperforming the market, and it will access all of that data. Allowing someone to vibe code, but within the constraints of the data that's available to the solution, is one approach to keeping people safe. We're still in the very, very early stages. We're all using ChatGPT day in, day out. I certainly am. It's making me more efficient, but we're a long way away from agents doing the jobs of portfolio managers and picking stocks. We're making them much more efficient at doing that, and certainly gathering information. There's a lot of excitement right now about artificial intelligence and essentially replacing the role of a portfolio manager. I think the likelihood of that at the moment is still quite low, because at the end of the day, if the AI starts making the same conclusions as the other AI at the other firm, then by definition, there's no alpha left. So there's definitely room for humans in the loop and humans to do their own thing. Another big trend I think we're going to see is agent to agent. So you'll have an agent that's perhaps working on behalf of a portfolio manager, and that agent will decide that it needs to go and do some deep research on behalf of the PM because maybe there's been an event. And that other agent might be much more specialized in that topic. It might have been trained on a small language model, and maybe it's an expert on some legal aspect of an industry, or maybe supply chain or something like that. So I think you're going to see a lot more of these complex workflows being built through Lego blocks. And that will, I think, make those solutions much more robust.
Max, over to you in terms of what's your view of your product evolving over the next 12 months? How quickly are you able to evolve given the rise of AI and the ability for AI to help you code, such as vibe coding? What's your view on that?
So I think one of the things you recognize is there is a huge spectrum of people who are AI forward, AI build, if you will. And I think the focus that we have is, number one, finding these people in organizations and empowering them as much as we can. And what that means from I'm not talking about an enablement side, but a technology side. How do we open up our platform so these people can really kind of spearhead adoption within their firms? But also, I think there is a ton more that firms like us can do to make the experience for end users who aren't necessarily AI forward immediately intuitive. I think about, how do I decrease the imagination threshold of a given user? To the degree somebody logs in and has to figure out, how might I use this thing? You're lost. You're not going to win that user. And that's frankly most users is what we're seeing. So that's absolutely imperative. So it's to me, it's less about, okay, what are all the cool things we can build versus how can we meet any given user where they are and get them value like this?
There's one really good example of that, Maximilian, where if you think about our experience right now, where you ask a question of ChatGPT or Claude, and it will deliver the data in a table, even though that table is 50 lines long and would be better presented in a chart. So I think one thing we're going to see more of is those solutions really thinking about how to render the data and not using very expensive tokens to figure out how to build some code to render a chart, but that it will grab a chart component and drop the data into that.
I'll just double dip into what Max just said about adoption. So I have a real life example today where I've got a banking client and we are going down the path of developing a solution, agentic and otherwise, for them. One of the questions they had was, how do you increase adoption, right? Because if you can build this really slick, sexy solution, but no one really uses it, what's the point? But I give the example of an engineer and an ethicist and a linguist and a philosopher. We have teams that kind of do that. We have product teams, we have engineering teams, et cetera, et cetera. We've also started introducing the notion of behavioral consultants who have a background in psych and other topics, where you can influence the build of the solution so that adoption further down the road is easier. So the simplest example I can give is, in this instance for this client, you have people, staff, who go from this spreadsheet to a Bloomberg terminal, different desk, different Bloomberg terminal. Then they'll go somewhere else and they do something manually. The easiest engineering way to do this would be you automate everything, right? But in this instance, we want to make the person's life easier. And to keep it short, we have replicated some of the handoffs that this person does. Goes from desk to desk, but we've made that process simpler. So the person still feels that they're doing something meaningful, right? And their day is productive, but the tasks that they do, we've made them agentic. So in that case, adoption is significantly faster. And this client is going to see results that they wouldn't have seen before, if that makes sense.
Brilliant. So I think we've talked a lot about value over the next 12 months. What are we going to see?